Hello, everyone. You're very welcome to week 2 of Make Code for Microbit. Today, we're going to get started on the coding process. So, we're going to learn how to build our own programs using different inputs. So, without further delay, let's get started. So, we're going to go straight to our browser. Okay, so in order to get started, we need to go to Microsoft, Make Code for Microbit. And then we need to scroll down and find Microsoft Make Code for Microbit. Should be near the top. And then the home page is going to open up. So this is if we're using the browser-based version of Make Code. Okay, so this is the home page. Lots of different tutorials, lots of different live coding. We went through all of this last week, so we're just going to get straight into our coding and get started. So I'm going to click on New Project, and I'm going to give my project the name Week 2, because this is our second week coding. So today we're going to cover lots of different things. We're going to learn how to build our own program out, and we're going to learn how to use different inputs. Okay, but just before we get started, we're going to do a quick recap over what we covered last week. So on the left hand side, we have our microbit or our microcontroller, and it has two programmable buttons, A and B, and 25 red LED lights that you can program to do different things. Along the bottom, the microbit has some pins, and then there's a toolbar which allows us to stop the microbit or the simulator and go full screen with the simulator and do lots of other things also. Over here in the middle, we've got different categories, and all the categories have different colors. And that allows us to see where the blocks come from. So they're all color coded. So this on start and forever block came from the basic section. And how we know that is because it's the same color of blue as the basic section. And look, I found them there. There's the forever block and there's the on start block. I'm going to drag out another on start block. Oh, that's after going grey and yellow. And last week, we discussed what we call a block when it goes like this. Well, it means there's a bug in our code. It means there's some sort of error, there's something not right. Okay. And we need to figure out what is wrong. And we need to debug in order for our program to work properly. So, can anyone spot the error? Well done. Okay. So, the problem is that we can't start our microbit twice. It'll only start once. We can only program it to start once and do one set of things when it starts. So we can't tell it to unstart, say hi, and unstart, say bye, because it won't know. It's a computer after all, so it won't know to say hi or bye. It won't know which to do first. So it only allows us to do one unstart. So that means that if you have another onstart, it's not going to work. So I need to delete this onstart. So I need to drag it over to the middle and the bin will appear and then let it go. Okay, and then it gets recycled back into the basic category. Okay, so that's what was wrong there. So that's unstart and forever are starter blocks, and they're quite similar to input blocks. Okay, in that they're C-shaped. Okay, so they go around other blocks because of their shape, and the other blocks go inside. The same way as some input blocks, they also go around your code or program. So, for example, on button A pressed. So we used this button last week to demonstrate how to show a number. So on button A pressed is an input block. It's a C-shaped block that goes around other code. Okay. And you put your other code in the middle. However, if I want to change this to on button B pressed, I need to use the drop down arrow beside A and I need to click on B. Okay. So then if I want to drag out on button A pressed, I can have the two inputs, and I can code these to do different things because this one is now on button B press. So when I press B, it will do whatever I tell it to do inside of the block. So I need to program it to do stuff. At the moment, I haven't any blocks in there, so I haven't told it to do anything, so it doesn't know what to do. But when I do put some blocks in, it will then use the information inside of it to run our program. Okay. However, if I change this to B now and I want this one to be B, the same thing is going to happen as happened when we were using on start. It doesn't allow us to have two different programs for on button B pressed because after all, it is a computer and it would get confused. It wouldn't know which to do first and which to do second. So, because of that, it only allows us to program on button B to do one thing. Okay, so I need to change this back to, I might change this one back to A. So now I've on button A pressed and on button B pressed, and they're two input blocks. Okay. However, on start and forever are starter blocks. Okay, so they're slightly different. Okay, and I'm going to get rid of forever and on start for now, and I'm just going to use on button A pressed and on button B pressed. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick my endangered animal. So the endangered animal I'm going to pick is a hawksbill turtle. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I want my microbit to show the name of the animal I chose. So I wanted to show hawksbill turtle. Okay, so I'm going to move this one out a little bit more and I'm going to drag out a string. Strings are here and I'm going to drag this block out and I'm going to make sure that it highlights in yellow, which means it's going to connect or embed inside of the on button A pressed block. And at the moment it's going to show string hello. So I need to change that because I wanted to say hawksbill turtle. I wanted to say the name of the endangered animal that I chose, which is a hawksbill turtle. Okay, so I want it to say hawksbill turtle. So I'm going to click inside of where it says hello, and I'm going to delete hello, and then I'm going to put in hawksbill space turtle. Okay, and a string allows you to show words. It also can have numbers and it can have special characters, for example, an exclamation mark or a question mark also. So if you wanted to ask someone the question, how are you could put in how are you question mark and that will show on the microbit also. So you can use letters, numbers and characters whilst using a string. Okay, but because I'm just displaying the name of the animal I chose, I'm just using letters. Okay, so hawksbill turtle. Now, in order to see my code, so I want to test it out, I'm going to click on button A, and it's going to say hawksbill turtle. Very good. That's the first thing I want to do. The next thing I want to do is I want to give some more information about the hawksbill turtle. So I've researched all about the hawksbill turtle as an endangered animal, and now I want to share some more information. And I want to share that in a different input. So I want it when I press button A to say the name of the animal I chose. And when I press button B, I wanted to show the population of that animal still left in the wild. So this time I need to display a number. Okay, so I'm going to use the show number block. So I'm going to go back into basics and I'm going to drag out the show number block and I'm going to bring it in under on button B pressed. Okay, and I know from having researched the hawksbill turtle that there is in or around 23,000 hawksbill turtles left in the wild, which isn't very many when you think about it. Okay, because they're an endangered animal. So I'm going to type in 23,000. Okay, that looks good. However, it's not going to work if I press on button A because it's a separate input. So I need to press A to show the animal's name and B to show the animal's population. So probably makes sense that I press A first so that people know what animal I've chosen, and then I press B and then they can see the population of that animal. So I'm going to go full screen this time and I'm going to press A. So our hawksbill turtle. And now I'm going to press B to see if it shows the population of the hawksbill turtle. 23,000. Okay, so I've now given some information about the animal I researched. So I've given the name and I've given the population of that animal left in the wild. The last thing I want to do is I want to create a face for my hawksbill turtle using my microcontroller. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag out on shake, which is a different input. And I'm going to use on shake this time. Okay, drag it down here. And I'm going to use on shake. However, just give the microbit 1 minute to refresh, and you might have noticed that a new button's after appearing called shake. And the reason why that appeared is because we're using the virtual microbit. So before this, I'm going to delete this and shake will disappear. It's gone. So now I'm going to drag it back out again so that you can watch it reappear and it refreshes. And there it's back again. So when you're using the physical microbits, when you're using this microbit, the real microbit, you literally shake it and then it will show your program if you have programmed it to show something once it's shaken. Okay? So that's what you would do if you were using the physical microbit. However, we're using the virtual microbit, and there's no way that you could physically shake some devices because they're so big. Okay, so because of that, instead of shaking your computer or your device and letting it fall and breaking the screen, they put in a button so that people don't have to shake their device. All they have to do is click on the button, and you can see that it's tilting backwards so that it's doing a virtual shake for us. Okay, so it does a virtual shake. Now, it's not after doing anything. And the reason why it's not after doing anything is because I haven't shown it or I haven't told it to do anything. I haven't programmed it to do anything just yet. There's still nothing inside of my on-shake input. Okay? So I need to put some code in there before it will do anything. But I just wanted to show you that it has just appeared. And in the same way, I'm going to use the drop down arrow and I'm going to change this to A and B. I'm going to show you what happens now. So a third button is after appearing. So we've got A over here, B, and then we've A and B. Okay, and you would click on that in order to show the population now because I've changed my program to show the population on button A and B pressed rather than on button B pressed, which it was before. Okay. However, if you're looking at the real microbit, you'll probably notice there's no on button A and B pressed. There's no other button down here. Okay? And the reason for that is because with the real microbit, you would just press on button A and on button B at the exact same time together. So you press both of them together. That's what you would do. Okay? But because when we're using a mouse, we can't press both A and B with the mouse at the same time because it'll only go to one or the other. We can't do that. So they had to create another button. But that's just because it's the virtual one. Okay, so I'm going to change this back to B. So now on button A pressed, show the string of the name of my animal that I chose, hawksbill turtle. On button B pressed, show the population of that animal, which is 23,000 species left in the wild. And finally, on shake, well, I'm going to create a face for my hawksbill turtle now. Okay, so I'm going to go back up to basics and I'm going to drag out this show LEDs block. I'm going to bring these up to the top. And with my show LEDs block, this is where I can use the 25 red LEDs to do different things. So I'm going to try and make a face for my turtle. Okay. Now, you simply just have to click on the squares that you want to light up. So if I want this square to light up, I just click on it. And if it turns white, that means it will light up once the program is run. Okay, so it will light up. However, if you make a mistake, you just re-click on the square and it'll go back to blue again. And that means it won't light up when the program is run. Okay, so let me see. I'm going to give my turtle 2 eyes. That looks good. And turtles kind of have, well, a hawksbill turtle has kind of like a beak for a mouth. Okay, so I'm going to try and make some sort of a beak. So it has its little pointer and it has its 2 eyes. So now I'm going to shake my microbit and see. That doesn't look too bad for a face from my hawksbill turtle. Okay, so now I've got 3 separate inputs. I've got on button A pressed, so when I press button A, something's going to happen. When I press button B, something else is going to happen. And when I shake my microbit or virtually shake my microbit, something else is going to happen. So I have 3 different inputs. Okay, what if I wanted all of these in one program? So what if I wanted to only have one input and have a really long program that would say the name, the number, and show the face of the animal I chose? Well, I'd have to choose one input, wouldn't I? Okay, so I'd have to choose one input. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in and I'm going to get the on start block out. An on start is a really nice block that's similar to an input block. It's called a starter block that allows you to do one long piece of code. Okay, so I'm going to drag out showstring because the first thing I want my program to do is say the name of the animal I chose. So I want that at the top of my sequence. I want that at the very top. I want that to be first. Then the next thing I want to do is I want to show the number of hawksbill turtles left in the wild. So the population of hawksbill turtles. So I want it to go underneath my show string. So I have to be careful where highlights in yellow, because if I put it here, it's going to go on top. So I have to make sure it goes underneath. And I want to make sure that it doesn't go outside of my starter block on start, because now it's a bug at the moment. It's neither part of my code, it's not part of my code, and it's not part of anything. So I want to make sure that I have it connected properly. And finally, the last thing I want to do is I want to add in the face of the animal I chose. So my hawksbill turtle's face. I'm going to add that in here. I'm going to bring this in. Now, I like to keep my workspace clean. So when I don't need a block, I generally delete it. Just keep the area nice and clean. So I'm going to drag the on shake into the bin, the on button A to the bin, and the on button B to the bin. I'm going to bring this over here. So now I'm going to look at the sequence of my code. So it's going to show the string, a number, and then the show LEDs block. Okay, so that looks good. I'm going to go full screen and I'm going to refresh or restart the simulator. So it's going to start off with hawksbill turtle. That's the top of our sequence. It's going to then move on to the population, 23,000. And then finally, it's going to show the face. Great. Okay, so that looks good. I'm happy with that. Okay, so that's why OnStart can be useful in terms of building out a long program. However, I'm going to drag my blocks out. So I want to take all my blocks out, but I don't want to take them one by one because that would take too much time. I'm going to drag them all out together. So I'm going to click on the top block and it's going to drag my whole entire program out. And I'm going to bring OnStart into the bin. And this time I'm going to take on button A pressed out. And I'm going to bring in my program and embed it into on button A pressed. So now I'm using an input. So I need to physically press button A. So I need to click on it, or if I have the physical mic, but I need to press it in order for it to play my program. Okay, and an input takes information from the environment. So it takes information from the environment for the microbit. So by pressing button A, it allows your code to run. So, one more cool thing I'm going to show you before we finish off week 2, and I let you get coding in terms of the animal you have researched, and you get started on creating a string, um, the population using a number, and also a face for your chosen animal. The last thing I'm going to show you is how to create some sort of animation. Okay. I'm going to bring out my face for a moment. So at the minute, my face is a bit of a bug. It's not doing anything. It's not connected to anything. Okay, so I'm going to drag out another input block. I'm going to drag out unshake. Okay, and I'm going to put that around my face. Okay, so what is an animation? Well, an animation is creating the illusion of movement. So it's when something kind of pretends like it moves. Okay, so in order to create the illusion of movement, I'm going to go in and see if I can find any other faces in the show icon block this time. So I'm going to drag the show icon block and bring it in underneath my show LED block where I created a face for my hawksbill turtle. And I can see there's a happy face here, there's a sad face, there's a confused face, there's an angry face, and there's an asleep face. There's lots of different faces. There's a surprised face and a silly face. There's lots of different faces. So I'm going to pretend that my turtle is doing the silly face so that it sticks out its tongue. Okay. And this is my resting face for my turtle. So this is what my turtle looks like when it's swimming around the ocean. However, this is what it looks like when it's being a little bit silly. So I'm going to shake my microbit and see how that looks. So it just does the two different faces. However, I wanted to do it maybe 10 times over and over. And I know I could add in all the blocks underneath and make it really, really long. But there's actually an easier way of doing that, and that's by using a loop. So you see the loop section here. Well, we can put a loop block around the code that we want to repeat. So we can put it around all the blocks or just some blocks, whatever we want. And then it will repeat only those blocks. I'm going to drag it out and I'm going to put it inside my unshake block around my two faces. So around the hawksbill turtle resting face and around the silly face. Okay, so, and I'm going to change it so that it repeats 10 times. So let's have a look. I'm going to go full screen and I'm going to shake my microbit. Looks good. And now it's stopped, so it must have completed the 10 times. So I'm going to exit full screen mode and I'm going to have a look at my code. So it repeated 10 times the hawksbill's resting face and also the silly face. However, what if I wanted to include something, for example, the name and the number into that program, but I don't want it inside of the loop. So I don't want it to show the name and the population 10 times. What I need to do then is I need to grab these blocks, and you see I'm after grabbing from the top, which means it's going to bring both blocks out. If I only grab the bottom block, it'll only bring the bottom block out. So you have to be careful when you're moving your code. I'm going to bring it up here to the very top of my program. So it's going to be the very first thing in my sequence. And because I like to keep my workspace nice and tidy, I'm going to delete my on button A pressed. Okay, so now when I shake the microbit, It's going to show the string hawksbill turtle. So it's going to say the name of the hawksbill turtle. It's going to show the number 23,000. And then it's going to start to repeat the hawksbill's resting face and the silly face 10 times. Okay, so let's have a look at this. The name, the number. That's following the sequence name, number, and now it's going to start repeating the faces between the hawksbill's resting face and the silly face. And that's creating the illusion of movement between the two faces. So that's creating an animation. Okay? So now I want you to get started on creating a string, creating a number with the population of your chosen animal that's left in the wild. And I want you to create either a face or an animation for your chosen animal. See you next week.